All right, guys. So this is second half of Q&A open discussion, day 3, Ozark Summit. I wanted to say one thing is if the plug in the blender thing, it's pretty harsh, okay? But I think of myself that way. I make fun of myself. I see myself this way. So if it is too, you know what I mean? Like, this is the way I do it. I don't fuck around in my mind. Like, I see myself the way it is, no matter how painful. So, and also the other thing is too, is if, let's say that you have a debilitating condition, or even if you let yourself go so bad that you can't recover, then you have to think about it a different way. So if you're dependent on something, you're dependent on dialysis, okay? Then the way to think about it is, this machine is saving my life, right? So so it's if you the whole point is that you can control a lot of these things. People think that it's like life just making you older and you just have to do this or something. That's bullshit. Yoga, eating well, exercise, losing weight stops you from most of the problems that people think are inevitable with age, right? So that's why I say that. It's the better way to think about it. But if you do have something where either you've gone too far or it was genetic, then you want to be grateful for the machine, grateful for every day. You're grateful that you're alive, right? You know what I mean? If you need the pills, you're grateful that they're there to help you, right? So there's always another way to look at it. So it's not like, oh man, I got this debilitating condition and I wish, and now I'm plugged into the blender, and that's true, but you just have to reset it because it can't be helped. The whole point is this shit can be changed. That's why it's so important to look at yourself and laugh at yourself. It's not because you're an idiot. It's because you're being an idiot, but you can quit being an idiot and change something, do something new, right? So yeah, I think Chime's got some good stuff here. Yeah.
Hey, so my thing right here, it's Chime time, is that like I'm good at keeping things in the black box, but I lead such a complex life that I have so many things going on that I have so many things inside the black box, and it's almost a burden. Like what advice can you give to relieve that burden, whether it's me taking things out of the black box that don't need to be in there, like some of the stuff in there is redundant, or maybe I just need to scale down on all the blackmailable activities that I'm involved with.
Right. Yeah, right. No, it's true. Yeah, it gets right. So sometimes it's open source kind of thinking, more going open source and like mapping things out. Like maybe there's a way that you can do some of that stuff in a way that's open source and visible and open, and maybe not as big, but maybe smarter in the long run, right? Kind of like we were talking about before with that one issue. So, thinking about ways to. What happens is we get so used to doing things a certain way that we just. Okay, like for example, I had an apartment rental business, right? And what it was is we would rent apartments in China, and there was a problem with rental apartments because foreigners would come into town and the market was very rigid. And to rent an apartment, you needed like an ID and you needed like a job and all this stuff and visa and stuff. So people would they started just like when I went to China, like everybody was going to China at the time. It was real hot. People studying Chinese, going to university, learning Tai Chi, learning Chinese medicine. Like everybody was coming to China. It was the hot place to be. But there wasn't a flexible market for real estate there. So we started renting out like 3-bedroom places, and then we would rent each bedroom out separately. But that was technically illegal because Chinese used to have like 20 people in an apartment. So they had the most draconian law for that. But we weren't doing that. We were like just maximizing the space, using it more efficiently. And it was foreigners, not locals. So we started to rent apartments and then rent them out individually. And no one was using Craigslist. So that was one of my things. Like we advertised on Craigslist, and that was why the business succeeded. We had a free advertising that no one was using in China, but everybody was using outside China. So before they went to China, they would check Craigslist, but nobody was using it. So we just advertised on Craigslist and made $1 gazillion because of that. Because we got free advertising that was better. And we had all the people wanted to rent rooms in there. So it was so easy so we ended up with 48 apartments. So we had 48 apartments. Then I found out that the liability laws were such that our company could be okay. In China, every business starts out illegal, and then once it gets to a certain level, you go legal. You go legit. So you start a business first, see if it works. You're baking bread. I mean, they kind of do it here too, right? Your mom might make cookies and then sell them technically illegally, right? Until the cookies get, she realizes she got a market there, and then she forms a company and starts making cookies more, larger scale, right? So she starts that, and that's what we did. And so, but what happened was there was one day when I realized that if one of our apartments caught fire, the law in China was so brutal. If that fire, because the apartments are like 1,000 unit apartments, right? And the fire could burn the whole building. And if that happened, we were liable for the whole building. 1,000 apartments, which, was impossible. So I when I found that out, because somebody had a little fire on their stove, and all of a sudden I realized, holy shit, you could end up getting a death penalty or something, right? So it kind of happened. We had started it with one model, but we weren't paying attention, but it got too big. So now we had 48 apartments. We were running around. We were pretty, each apartment had 3 rooms. And so we were renting 3 times 40, 120 clients, and they're paying rent every month. We're cleaning their apartments. So we were even doing like management for the Ritz-Carlton, which is right behind us. They had like rotating management. So we had Ritz-Carlton. They would give us towels and sheets and stuff in some of the apartments that were right behind. And then some of the rotating staff would come and use our things. So we had it going on, right? It was like rocking. And then I realized, damn, this was a good model when we were small with 2 apartments, but 48 apartments is absolutely impossible. So I just said to the staff, I said, we're closing all the apartments. And they're like, what are we going to do next? I'm like, I don't know. Probably we'll start becoming a regular real estate company or whatever. We're going to do something because this is impossible. So the staff was totally against it, but we started closing down every apartment. Of course, we lost money closing the apartments, but then necessity is the mother of invention. One of my friends needed to sell an apartment, and they asked us if we could sell it. And we were like, we don't know how to do this, because in China, it's not like the United States where it's easy. Like it's difficult, like to learn new things, like to get licenses, and it's not so fluid, right? So anyway, we sold it for him because it was my friend. He trusted me, even though we kind of messed it up. He was like, "It's cool." He's like, "Just sell it for me. It's fine." And so we did, and then we got like $10,000, and that's like huge money in China. So we're like, we're selling apartments. We're getting a license. We're going legal. We're going to be a real estate agency, and then that went down that path, right? So it's a matter of being flexible. I think what you're talking about here is you've reached the limit of the model you have. The model no longer works when it's this big. So you have to rethink everything and make hard decisions. The model's gotten too successful. So you have to say, okay, because a part of you is like, oh, this works, but it doesn't work because now it's too big. So you have to think, how can I what does a guy like me do? And a guy like you, or a guy like anybody who's successful, you might even get into a whole new business. Like, see, the thing is, once you're a businessman, you're a businessman. So once you start having clients and you have success, you don't necessarily do the same business. Like, you can do a whole new business. Like, that's what I realized, is that there's other businesses out there. And so a lot of people will get into new businesses, whole new industries, because they'll rethink the whole fucking city. They'll tear up the whole city. It won't look anything like it did before. So I would say, don't just think, what can I do with this model? I would say, reevaluate how much cash you have, what skills you've learned, how much, what you like to do, what you've learned, and then rebuild the whole city, And that's what the businessmen, that's what they're able to do. That's why you get some guy in, like, 1 minute he's got a restaurant business, the next minute he's got an air conditioner business and a restaurant business and this, because he understands business. He understands, he's got it all, the model's down, like he's trusted, and he's got like staff that want to work, and like they can deliver air conditioners, they can deliver whatever, So he's got things, he's got a network, he's got, things that he's developed, and they can be used in many different ways, right? So I think one of the problems is people just get stuck on one kind of business, and they're just like always just like, and then eventually, that kind of inflexibility. And I think too, to realize that you're a serious guy now. Once you have succeeded, you're a serious guy. And one of the best ways to use that is just to start hanging out with more serious people too. Because that's the other thing. You surround yourself with a bunch of clowns and they kind of look up to you. It feels good, but it's not good for you. It's better where you're the clown hanging out with somebody else who's above you, doing cooler things, and you're like trying to help them. Do you need some coffee, sir? Like you're the one helping them in order to learn the skills that you need to learn to go to that level, right? So it's just constantly reevaluating your whole life basically, and then what skills you've learned in a business sense. So we're talking about Rev. We're talking about in a living sense. Right? You're talking about in a business sense, right? So like starting a new business, thinking about business. It's like a lot of this is business. So you want to it works for everything. So just start to reevaluate who you are. You might find that you're a much more serious guy than you thought. Or you might be more tired of what you're doing than you thought. That question might have come from a deeper feeling of pain or whatever. So go in there where that feeling came from and think about everything that you wouldn't have thought about before. Because one of the difficulties in reinventing yourself all the time is that you become the person, or there's a fear that you're going to become the person that you would have hated before. But when you become the new person, you are a new person. You have the limitations of the old person could not see life from a more balanced perspective. So don't be afraid of becoming the person you hate. Not that you're going to become the person you hate, but just don't be afraid of it. You know what I mean? Like if you're afraid of wearing a suit and being one of those guys in suits, that can stop you from making presentations to do really cool shit that you want to do, right? So don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of that. Not that you're going to become that, but just don't be afraid of it. Just you see new things, you have new experiences, you have new, and then things will look differently. You build a business for different reasons, often very different than what people. Like you could have a toilet business. It's very exciting because you're doing like international partnerships. You're improving the technology. You're working with cities. You're working with developers. So it's not a toilet business anymore. It's like, you know what I mean? It's import, export. It's technology. It's development. It's production, factories. So it's there's many ways to look at it. You could say, well, I don't want to be in the toilet business, but Toto is like the Japanese toilet company. They're doing the spray things. Like it's like they're getting into all. It's different than it looks from the outside. You just see the toilet, right? But actually running the business is pretty exciting, right? So think about all these things. Like you've matured past. Your model has matured past, is my guess. And there's nothing wrong with stopping everything. That's what I did with the apartments. I just said, this shit is illegal. We're going to get in trouble. We're closing all of them down. I don't know what we're going to do. Like, I have no idea. But I'm not going to do this anymore. I could see the risk. I could see the fire was going to happen. Or it was going to blame on us. Or something was going to happen. Something was going to go wrong. I had built it up. And it was like, without me knowing, because I didn't even know we had 48 apartments. I knew we had a bunch of apartments. And I said to, the manager, I said, how many apartments do we have? She's like, 48, 49. I'm like, we have 49 apartments? Like, what the fuck? I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, holy crap. So we have 49 contracts? She says, yeah. She shows me all the contracts. Because I was busy doing other things. I was getting corporate clients for relocation. I was doing my job, right? So I was getting other things for the business, and I was doing the marketing and partnerships and getting us into new businesses and things like that. And then she was like basic operations manager, taking care of everything. So I'd bring in the new client, and in China they would often want many different things, and then I would hand them to her. She would do the original thing they wanted, and then she would start branching out. Oh, you need this, and then we would start doing all this other stuff. Because we were doing everything from TV production, helping people to produce TV shows in China, to real estate, to selling properties, leasing properties, We had 700 maids working for us. We were doing all kinds of shit. We just had all kinds of shit. I didn't even know. At some point, I didn't even know what we're doing, And like those maids were cool, man. That was a good business, man. Really interesting, actually. Having a lot of people work for you, like even no matter what they're doing, it becomes interesting at some level because I don't know, it's just different than having one person work for you when you have a lot of people working for you. Yeah, it was great. The dynamics are different. The possibilities are different. The people you meet are different. The things you can solve are different. So those maids went from, like they were originally just maids, like low-level maids. But then on Saturdays, I would teach them how to speak English and then use computers. So it was cool, man. It was fucking cool. That was one of the coolest things in China, actually. The fucking maids. That was really cool. I got very close to them. Yeah, it was cool. What's next? Oh, you got something? Who else has something? Does that mean to get all hands up? Ideas, questions? Fucking.
So how do you know when you get to that point where you gotta like hit the reset button?
What's that?
How do you know when you get to that point where you're like, fuck it, I gotta hit the reset button on
I think
my whole life or like this thing?
I think it's a feeling, It's a feeling. You feel when it's like the pressure's building up.
Yeah.
You know when the old model's not working.
But it sucks too to do this.
Yeah. No.
Sometimes.
Doesn't suck at all, man. This is what every successful guy. Do you want to be a loser or a winner? Every successful guy reaches this point, and then he reinvents himself.
No more.
I mean, look at Madonna. I always liked Madonna in the sense that she reinvented herself many times in music in the beginning. Now I'm not saying right now, but I knew her I watched her from the beginning, right? She was quite good at it. She had a certain model, and then that model got to the end because she was the sexy young girl, talking about being a virgin and this and that. But then she was she was getting up there when she got popular, right? So that model kind of ended for her, but she very smoothly shifted into the diamonds and the nice dresses. And that was a tough shift, she envisioned that she had reached the end of her, whatever that kind of like new girl in town, like that kind of whatever she had going on, poppy, songs, sugar pop, whatever you call it. And then it was onto more like elegant, more smooth. Then she did something else. And I'm not saying they were all smart, but the invention part of it, the reinvention part was really cool. And it was based on her reaching a brick wall. Right. So if you want to be trying to be sexy when you're 60, you can do that, but it doesn't really work that well. So, you're kind of already doing it, reinventing yourself already. So just keep doing it. Just realize that you're not in high school. You finish high school, you're like this, football star, and then all of a sudden you're done, and you're all of a sudden working at McDonald's or something, or in school or whatever, in another school. You've reinvented yourself already. So just know that things come to an end. Yeah. And then you raise a kid and you're a dad, and then the kid's old. Then it's like, well, what am I to do? Or you're like this guy who's going to get in shape, and then you get in shape, and like you want to like make your house situation good, and then it's done. It's done. It's good enough. So like, what's the next? What am I going to do? Right. So it's like just that sense. You already know what you asked. Okay. It's not some big mystery. And so does Chime. Like, that's why he's asking. He's like, I'm at the end of my rope here. This is not working. And so it's not about unblackmailable. It's like the model of what you're doing has reached this level. And you know it. Only you know it, in fact. So not only is it not a mystery, and you already know it, but only you know it. Now, maybe if you had like a brother who was very close, or a wife or something, she might be able to see it in you too. She might say, don't you feel, like that you should try, instead of being a mechanic, the best mechanic, you might start by the garage, right? And then once you have the garage, you might start getting a few garages. And then you might think, well, fuck, why am I doing this garage thing? Like you go to McDonald's and you realize it's a franchise business. You're selling franchises, right? Well, you can't franchise a garage too easy, but you can franchise oil change, right? So you might say, well, what can be franchised? So you go into a different model. Because other smart guys, that's what they've done. They've taken, there's a new model. The franchise model is very interesting. I studied a lot because I was going to do a big franchise business at one time. So we hired franchise lawyers, and we made a business, I wrote a 50-page business plan for franchises. And it was in the end, I didn't do it, but it was quite interesting raising money to start it was a major franchise. And so it was quite interesting to learn that there was another model that was completely different than every other model of business. And it was based on, you had to have certain, what do you call it? Like you can't franchise everything if it's too complicated. It has to be very simple, like basically, right? So like the franchise business. So when you look at yourself and you look at your model, you have to also realize that everything's got to change. Like to go to the next level, it's like you have to start thinking of all the things you have in your life. So you're taking inventory not of your house, inventory of all your skills. And then you think of what have smart people done from being a mechanic, right? What have they done next? One guy maybe would patent a new tool, right? Well, I have a friend who does that kind of thing. He discovers a new way to do things, and he gets a patent, and then he gets royalties from his patents, right? He lives in Houston, right? He gets patents from all kinds of switches and, like oil storage stuff and, bags and all this stuff that they use in industry. And then he just makes money off the patents. He just sits back and he starts to think of he watches people do things. He watches people load things. He watches the heater and the way they check the heat with the gun. And then he's like, I got a better way to do that. And then he calls his patent attorney, and then he gets a patent on this new technology. And then he finds out if there's a patent on that, and then he gets a patent. So you don't have to go to owning the garage and this. There's many ways you can reevaluate what skills you have and what models are out there, but they don't come from the brain that becomes a mechanic doesn't go to the next level for most people. So in order to do that, you have to start to be more, you have to realize that, again, most people live lives of quiet desperation, right? It's because they're not doing this. They never reinvent. They never see there's another way. People don't even think about it. They just go to a franchise. They go to a hotel. They go to a chain while they're just doing the same thing all the time. And they're not realizing that you don't have to be a genius. You just have to start to see what have other people done after they did this, like what are the fundamentals of your life and business that you're controlling? Like, what are the fundamentals there? What are the skills that you have? And then what other things could they be used for? Because they might be something totally new, like music production or whatever. It could be something totally different, right? Clothing for concerts, something like that, whatever. It could be something, not that's actually not very creative, but there's probably something. Well, like look at Richard Branson, right? He started out with a record store, right? And then he realized that he got the Sex Pistols. He started producing, and he got the Sex Pistols to sign with his record company. And then after he got the Sex Pistols, because nobody would sign with them because they were pretty out there. They were saying "God Save the Queen." They were like the people was not acceptable and with the other labels, and so he got this popular band that was not acceptable to the labels. The corporations couldn't take it, so he took it, and he made a shit ton of money. Well, no, actually, he started with Tubular Bells. Actually, he got a recording that he thought was super cool that no one else could understand. So he signed these guys for like a few dollars. Tubular Bells, it's a song, and then. It was just this weird song with all these bells, and you can listen on YouTube. And then that became, he thought this could be more popular, so he marketed it. And then he got the Sex Pistols, and then it became a business, and then he went to the next thing. So I think that someone like Richard Branson is a good guy to think about for someone like you, because he's a guy who started on his own, and he ended up owning an airline and a train company. Now, of course, with COVID, he's asking for handouts, and people will say, he's like an idiot. Oh. It's like everybody's so black and white these days. This guy has been very successful. Like, I know somebody who knows him quite well. Like, I never met him myself, but I know quite a few people that know him, and like just by chance. And that guy's a fucking amazing, what he's done. Whether he dies and fails in the end, it doesn't matter. What he built is beautiful. Like the Spanish, they build those... what are they called? Do you know what that's called? All the people, they build a triangle to heaven or whatever. They stand on each other's shoulders. They try to go to heaven. They try to build like a human tower to heaven. No. They actually do it with humans, and then it always falls. It always falls, but they try to get up there. Right? He got up there pretty high, right? So it's like, just the fact that he built that, he's a totally different person than the guy with the record store that would be bankrupt right now, because records are not. Now they're coming back, but he went bankrupt long ago, right? If he had stayed in a record business. So there's stuff you can do. Whether it's, for me, like with my real estate thing, was we started from renting out separate rooms because I had not wasted, but I had put a bunch of money to a manufacturing business, lost a bunch of money in that. Then I moved to China, studied Chinese. That cost me a lot of money because I was still flying back and forth to Japan, and I had a lot of things going still. I had a lot of businesses I was still paying for stuff that weren't producing at the time because I was thinking, well, in the future, I'll do them again, which was dumb. I should have cut them off, right? I had a lot of things that were draining my money that I was thinking, well, maybe I'm going to do this again. I got to make sure this is still ready because this is what made me. It's like, no, man, cut it off. Like, you're not doing it anymore. Done. Finished. Next. So that would have saved me a ton of money. And then finally I did a supplement company, picked the wrong partner, and then that's why I don't like partnerships. I realized partnerships is not good. And then I lost a bunch of money, so I was down to my last $6,000. And I was in China, and now it's when I rented the apartment. It cost me $5,000 to rent. And then we rented out the other rooms, put up ads on Craigslist. Within one day, it was all rented up. And then we were making a profit. And then we got another apartment next door. And the lady's like, you have nice people staying in your house. You can use mine. So we rented her place. And then we rented another place. And then we moved up to selling properties and property management. And then corporations started asking us to basically solve problems for them. So they were doing things in China. And they needed their, basically they would send over these executives and they would be totally clueless in China. So they needed housing, they needed like help, they needed translators, and the translators were never very well vetted, but they trusted us. So I built my business on trust because foreigners could come into China and they could trust us. We would tell them, we can't do that. You can't do that in China. That doesn't work. It won't work. And they would trust, and they would say, okay, well, what would work? And we'd say, well, this might work. And they'd say, well, someone else told us you could do it. I'd say, well, go waste money on them. It's fine. We're not here to take your money. Okay? We're just telling you, you asked us if we can do it, and you can't fucking do it. So go over there, find out you can't do it, and come back. So that's why I started the business, because I was tired of people. We would compete against people who could say you could do things you couldn't do. So in the end, we got people who said, these guys are actually trustworthy. So if you need something done in China, you can go to these guys and they'll either do it or they'll tell you can't do it. So people started coming to us, and then we got more and more serious clients. So we got clients a very strange way. People just came into us and said, look, I need this done. We need to shoot a TV show. We can't get the licenses. We know that, but we need to shoot a TV show. Can it be done? Here's the locations we want. Here's what we want to look. And then I was like, I asked around, looked around. I said, I think we can do it if we do it fast, And they're like, okay. And they sent over a crew of like 18, like all these cameras and stuff. And then I'm out there like, here it is. It's showtime, right? Let's make it happen, right? And I'm just like, move out of the way. We got a do you have a license? Oh yeah, we're good. Yeah, move along here, film that, And we did this. We got the shot, right? And they're like, perfect, And so then I started doing TV stuff in China, and then, all kinds of stuff happened from that. Then I got on TV and I got some press from that. Then more things started happening for us. So there was other ways to do it. Every other people were competing against. They were doing ads. They were basically copying our Craigslist stuff. And I was on like nationwide TV in the US for free, right? Getting way more trust, having way more fun, and promoting my business for free. Because everybody was looking for like a success story in China. All the US companies wanted a success story, and I was the easy one. So it was like that was one thing. I just leapfrog everybody else for free, and it was way more fun, and I met way more cool people too. So like it's like you just leapfrog shit. You find ways to. It seems dark because your mind probably can't maybe, but just know that your model's done. Everything is gonna change. That's what happens. Everything's gonna change. Because it's like the city. You can't do the same city. It's like now you've reached the limit of your business model. And this model, everybody, you feel it. And then you're like so scared. Like that's the moment when you start to you want to get around. So really start reevaluating. Where are you now? What skills did you learn? What money do you have? What connections do you have? What do you know about life? Physically, mentally, socially, everything. And then just start reevaluating, start looking at other people and look at other models. Look at someone like Richard Branson. Like, again, it's not about what he finally did in the end. It's like, what did he do in the middle? Because he could have gone, Richard Branson could totally fail and I would still have a lot to learn from him, because he could have ultimately choose the wrong path. Like, let's say a lot of this happens a lot to people. They start very flexible and then they invest, like, because their dream, most people's dream is to be a slave. So they're like, like they don't have any money, so they can't afford to do things the way everybody else does it. But once they have money, they're going to do it the way they always dreamed of when they were a kid, And so they spend their whole life doing something cool, and they take all their money and they put it into some dumb business, lose it all. That's like really common. Yeah. So it's like, don't do that. So reevaluate. And then if you have that dream of being a slave, just get rid of, just laugh at yourself, and just say, yep, I was going to put it all into a building, which owning a building is not what I want to do, So, maybe, like it's a lot of things that people do along the way. A lot of decisions are really dumb. I got a friend, he bought a lot of Bitcoin when it was cheap, and he doesn't have it now. I'm not saying buy Bitcoin. I'm just saying this is a story. The guy bought Bitcoin, true story, very cheap. And the guy's like insanely rich, and he's got all these Bitcoin, and it went up from 25 cents to whatever is $10,000. And he bought a ton of them. And he wants to get into things that make him a slave. Like, he wants to take that profit and put it into other things. Like, there's no cost for maintaining Bitcoin. It's digital. There's no bank. There's no insurance. It just sits there for free. But sometimes when you get the best model, you want to be a slave. You want to ruin it or something. So you have to kind of control yourself not to ruin your own life once you get super successful. The same with the players, right? You're a player, you got a bunch of girls, you're having fun, and then you're like, no, I have to get married to one girl. I can't do this because of this or that, I got to basically do the opposite of everything I've been doing and so forth. So there's a lot of, like, as you're changing yourself, you're going to hit these kind of glass ceilings, and it's a matter of just, okay, I'm hitting the glass ceiling here. Pause. Slow down. Just know you're hitting a glass ceiling. The model's fucked. It's gotten too big. Times changed. Because times changed too, right? The Craigslist thing for me changed. Because what happened was, we owned Craigslist when I started it. Like, we fucking owned it. You go to the real estate section, which is all our ads, right? But then what happened was everybody started to use it. And then I didn't notice it. Just like the 48 apartments, I didn't notice it. And then I was like telling everybody, like, put up ads, like people were working for me. I'm like, don't be lazy. And they're like, everybody's just kind of, they weren't telling me, but they were just kind of like not happy all of a sudden. And then finally one girl says, she said, I'm not going to do ads anymore. I'm like, why not? And she said, there's just too many. And I was like, too many, just do it, they're free. And then she's like, well, come over here and look at this. And so I got down there and I looked at it. There were so many new ads in China at the time that when you put it added up, within like a minute, it would be down invisible. Because the new ads would come up so fast that your ad was literally only visible for like 30 seconds or a minute in the real estate section. So it had totally outgrown its, like, too many people were doing it now. So it's like you're always reevaluating to be successful. You're always like keeping in touch. Now, it's not my fault I didn't know because I had too much on my mind. She was doing the ads, right? The young kids were doing the ads, right? We had interns doing the ads. We had interns that wanted to go to China, so we had a lot. We had an intern business, yeah. So people would pay money to be interns in China. So we had interns coming in. We were renting them rooms. So we had all this shit. It was crazy. And so the interns would be like doing these ads, and they were like smart, cool kids too. They're like doing the ads, boom, boom. But then I realized, okay, that doesn't work, and it's scary, man. It's scary. It's easier for me to just say, just keep doing it, man. You're not doing it. We need somebody more relentless, It's like, no, man, it's not working, right? So it's like that accepting, reevaluating, and stopping. I think stopping is the key thing people don't do. Everybody thinks that when you change, you need to know what you're going to do. I'm going to quit the business with my brother, but I know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to quit till I know. Until I know everything. It's like, no, man. Tell you what you know. I'm not saying you know this, but I mean, at the point that you know something, that's all you know. You just know that it's not working. That's all you got to know, is that it's not working. You don't need to know what to do next. That's the key thing. It's really important what I'm telling you. Like, just know what you know. It's not working. That's all you got to know, and just seep in that. Feel it. Think about all the ways it's not working. Like, really feel the pain. Because feeling the pain comes from specific things. And you have to, like, be honest about yourself. Because it's when you're an entrepreneur, you get to be like a bull. You're like a bull. You're just fucking going forward, like, no matter what. Because people are always telling you can't do stuff. And you're like, I can do it. I'm going to do it. And you do it. But there's being an entrepreneur, it's not just being a bull. It's also you're able to sit down and just, you know what I mean? Just realize that you could be wrong about everything. So sometimes you're just like a bull pulling, or like a plow horse, just pulling the plow, just going forward no matter what, lightning, floods, you know. And that attitude is very important. But the total opposite attitude is very important too. You know, where you're just like, no more. Something's not working. Something's wrong. What is it? You know. And then, goddamn, I'm scared. Okay, I'm scared. And I don't know what to do. Okay. You know. Not doing nothing. Just know this is where you are. You know. And this is what guys like Richard Branson, the guys that reinvent, go up to. This is what they do. And then you're like, because you're like, I need to do something new. And if you rush into something, the reason why I don't want you to rush into things, because you rush into, your mind is still small, in the sense that it's still that old business model. So all you think of is like, let's put a chrome bumper on this car. Let's put fancier paint on here. You know, you got a car, right? And that car was maybe in high school, that was your everything. Your leather jacket, your car was everything, right? And it worked. It was good, right? But then now all you can see is like more shit on the car, you know, better paint, you know, this, that, better seats, leather seats, you know. But it's like you just go away from that, and you might be on a subway in Tokyo or something, you know, doing something totally new, you know. So it's just the car, the house. It's reached the level. Yeah, you're done with that. Yeah. It's time to get out there and do something that you're not used to, which is reevaluating everything, reevaluating the whole fucking city. Where does electricity need to go? Where does the internet need to go? What minerals do we have? What have other cities done? What would I do if I could redo the whole thing again? Right? This is why people get in trouble in life too, is that they've made this commitment to who they are, made this commitment to a business, and they reach the level and they just can't. It's like their attitude, their whatever brand they have, you know. But like the successful people, like, read books about successful people, and they will do this without really making a big deal out of it. But it is a big deal for them. They're doing what I'm talking about in their mind, but they just don't know how to verbalize it. Someone like Ben Franklin, someone like, you know, anybody who's done a lot of different things and moved up, you end up being a diplomat and like all this stuff, starting from basic things, right? From inventions, and, you know, he wrote books, he was an author, and he was a publisher, and, you know, everything, right? So yeah, then this zip, and this is the shit. This. Where this magic carpet ride takes you is fucking powerful. You end up as a totally different man as an old man than if you wouldn't have taken this magic carpet ride. So I really want to end it here, unless there's something anybody really wants to say. Yeah. Just come over and say. Talking to you. Okay. Real quick.
I was going to say that for the longest time, I put my whole identity was around, like, you know, I'm smart, I have a high IQ, I'm always right, I know everything. And I was so scared for so long of being wrong and like not knowing the answer, you know. And now, like, I listened to your videos for years, but now actually being here and being with you guys and talking to you in person, I'm not afraid of being not only wrong but catastrophically wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, like being wrong about so many things and going, oh man, I was so wrong about this. I was so stupid, you know, and I used to be afraid of, like, you know, if I was wrong, I'd look stupid, and people go, oh, you know, oh, Sean's dumb. He looks weak. He looks like an idiot. But I realized I already look that way. You know what I mean? I already look like, people can already, you know what I mean? Like, you can tell, oh, this guy has no social skills. And so I was lying to myself. I was just fooling myself, thinking that I really didn't feel that way. And I don't know. I'm not afraid of looking that way anymore. And that's a big change. But that's because I came here to the summit, you know? So I think that's a big advantage of actually being here versus just listening to the videos.
Right. It's all the little things in the middle. It's the grease. It's the tendons in the elbow, right? It's like, yeah, it's more than just the specifics. It's like, because you're kind of building up to these changes, and that now you had a breakthrough, right? Yeah, and then once you have a breakthrough, you literally don't have to worry about it because you're not going to go back. Like, your brain can't. It's like once you see something, it's like you just see it now. It's obvious, you know. So it helps you to have these breakthroughs. And I could see you having one, actually. Like, the whole time you were talking, I was like, what the fuck's going on, Sean, over there, you know? No, really, it's like you're like something weird to look on your face. And like it was building up, right? So yeah, no, that's it. And that's the thing is, like, people spend so much work on things. It's about breakthroughs, new business models, new ways, new fucking, you know, that's what Unblackmailable is about. It's all about getting a whole reset, and then also knowing that once you have the reset, there's going to be a million more resets, you know, and they're like black swan type resets. But the thing is, they don't happen to you. A lot of them are invisible, happening to other people. You have to be open to saying, wait a second, other people are doing stuff I need to learn about, so that like there's two types of breakthroughs. One is when it's forced on you, right? And that's good. But there's a higher level one where it's like you're like looking for other people having breakthroughs so that you can have that breakthrough. You know, so that, you know, so it's not just forced on you. It's like, wait, I've kind of reached it now. Now I need to find out where have other business guys gone? Because we're talking about business now mainly. You know, that's what we're talking about. You know, so business stuff. I think business is a good one because, yeah, man, life is there for the picking, man. It's just there to be a very successful, very secure guy who, you know, who feels good about the changes he's made and is doing the things he likes, and in the smartest model, and is open to new things, and has smart people around him, and is not afraid, you know, and is not relying on the antiquated shit that he built up. Not that it was bad, but it was the stuff that we rented those 48 apartments. That was beautiful, man. Like, it was like so simple. I was down to no money. I had $5,000, $6,000, whatever, in China. And I was like freaking out, man. It was scary. It cost me $5,000 for that first apartment. I was down to $1,000. You know, here I was in China. I had a girlfriend who was going to be my business partner, and she was a good business partner for building the business. Okay. So women can be good for your business. Okay. Don't think that you only need men. Women can be very good for business for many different reasons. It's different to date a chick is to work with chicks. Women can do stuff, right? And sometimes they're good. Like this episode here, like a lot of women will like listen to this and say, if you send it to women, and they'll be like, yeah, guys are not good at this one. Women can reinvent easier, I think. I feel it. They're just better at reinventing. And it's like guys is a little harder for us. We got a fucking commitment. We got chips on number 36. And that's the fucking way it is, you know. And it's like the 67 Camaro is the best car ever made. And, you know, I've done this and no one tell me I can't do that. And, you know, like all just these rigid things, you know. Chicks are pretty good at this, actually, you know. Sometimes they can teach you a lot, you know. I learned a lot of like these soft skills, well, from people in general. But a lot of times girls will teach you stuff by watching girls. So, you know, when you watch girls, I think a lot of guys in MGTOW, they kind of like just like see half the population. But most of the money made off women's products is guys. Like the feminine napkin was invented by a guy, you know. So like women didn't think of that, men thought of that, you know, and they made a lot of money off that. And then women will say, well, let's take advantage. No, women make stuff for guys and make a lot of money off different things that we buy. It's not a lose-lose. It's like you come up with ideas that work for people and make a business. It doesn't really matter what, you know what I mean? It could be makeup. It could be, because if you look at department stores, the first floor is always women's products because it's the most profitable in the whole place by far. Like if they could do it, those department stores would only have women's products.
That's how my mall is.
Yeah.
First
First floor is women.
Men's like second floor, hidden over here.
That's right. And the reason why men's is the second floor is probably because it loses money, but they need to have it because the guys are coming in with the girls. There's logistical reasons why businesses are crazy. Like I had a friend, he started a dollar store in China, right? It was not a dollar. It was six renminbi or 10 renminbi. I think it was 10 renminbi. He had a 10 renminbi store. It was quite interesting, his story. German guy. So it's like a dollar store in China, right? And they didn't have them, right? So he had this dollar store. And when you go to a dollar store like Dollar General down here, we walk in there, we see all these things, and we buy the things we want, right? But the Chinese are fundamentally different because it's a factory of the world. So when they walk in there, they either worked in one of those factories or they know somebody worked in one of those factories or owns one of those factories. They kind of like when I look at a surfboard, I immediately know a lot about the surfboard. Probably know the guy who made it or someone who knows him, why it was made, where it was made, what's different about this technology. I look at a surfboard, I know a lot, right? Just because I grew up around surfboards, right? So and I was interested in a lot of my friends shape surfboards, right? So I can see the Chinese are like that with a dollar store. So they walk in there, they're like, they know right away the dollar store has some things that are worth like $4 or $5, but they cost $4 or $5. But because we don't know, we just buy whatever we need. The Chinese walk in a dollar store in China back then, not now because now so many people are making money in China in so many ways, but a lot of smart guys walked in his store and they just bought all the $4 or $5 things and then sold them somewhere else. And so his whole business model was fucked because they just walked in and bought everything that was worth more than $1 and left. And at first he didn't understand, so he's like, "This is great. They're buying tons of stuff." Then he looks at his ledger and he's like, "We got to close." Yeah, because he was real smart, man. He opened the little dollar stores right next to bus stops. So in China, he was quite smart, He really had for a German guy in China, pretty smart because he was selling to Chinese, which is rare. Most people were selling to foreigners. Like I was selling to foreigners because it's easier. He was selling to Chinese, and he was quite clever, but he lost out on the fact that he could not see that they knew, and so he went bankrupt, because he just couldn't do it. So when you look at a department store, what you think is business. Okay, this is one of the biggest problems with understanding the business world. It's a very important thing. When you look at a business, when you're starting business, don't look at a business and think, that's a business. I don't think that. When I look at a business, I think it's probably money laundering or some guy's girlfriend or some old business they bought so long ago that they own the land and they don't care about making a profit. Don't assume that every business is making a profit or that you could just do that business. Because what people do, they're like, well, he has a coffee shop, and I'll make a coffee shop with better coffee, sell it for cheaper, and we'll make money. And then you realize, he owns the land, he might be laundering money, he might be a total idiot, he might be from a rich family and just wasting money on this thing without even understanding what he's doing, thinking he's going to make money in the future. There's so many reasons why you don't want to copy a business model, because it's often not what you think. Business is really a mindfuck when you realize how many businesses are not even businesses. They're just totally ridiculous. So as a young kid, you're looking at the world and you're thinking, oh, there's all these businesses. You walk down the street, Main Street, you're like, oh, he's got a business doing mattresses, he's got a business, and just don't just assume that you don't know shit when you look at those things. They could all be losing money. There could be something you don't even understand. Like my brother worked at a burrito place that was a money laundering place for cocaine money back in the 80s. And they always had these huge burritos.
Don't assume they're all successful.
Yeah, it was called Nito Burrito. And they had these fucking huge burritos that were full of good shit, right? So the competitors would go in and say, well, if Nito Burrito's making money, with all that meat and that huge burrito, they must somehow be doing it, so we'll just do it and copy them, right? And they all went bankrupt. The Nito Burrito just continues on, Then eventually the cops came in and raided the place, So a lot of things are going on that you don't understand, And a lot of people they'll go to the bank, they'll get a loan because they have real estate. The bank will give them a loan, not necessarily in the U.S. but in other countries. And then all of a sudden they have all this money and they'll do a dumb business. And then you'll walk by that dumb business, you'll eat there, and you'll say, I'd like to have a business like this. I'd like to have a business with like palm trees and nice chairs and lots of space, free internet, high quality sausages. And like, I'd love to have a business like that. It's not a business. It's an illusion. It's a mirage, So like life is hard, business is hard. So if it's not hard, you start thinking, what the fuck is going on with this thing? Something weird's going on here that I don't know. There's something going on. This person's stupid. A bank is stupid, gave him money. He has money that he's wasting. It's like he owns. There's some other factor that you don't understand. Like maybe he did some other business before that they're giving him a break on this, or who knows what it is. There's always something. So don't assume that when you're trying to figure out businesses. Just know the harsh world of your own life. It's hard to get in shape. Okay, it's hard for Adam to fix a computer. It's hard. Don't think you can make a drone company easy or something. You know what I mean? It's like goddamn hard. And just know it's goddamn hard to do stuff, And it's going to be hard for you and it's hard for anybody else. And you need a lot of money. And you have to just realize just like getting in shape is hard. A business is hard. If it's not hard for somebody else, maybe look at it. Sometimes there's business models that are pretty smart. Like my friend with the patent business. That's a pretty cool business. The patent business is pretty cool money. You invent something, you patent it, you get paid, but people can steal your patents. You got to have an attorney. You got to fight those battles. And so there are things, But anyway, I think we did. I think we went on too long. Not too long, but I think this is the end. Yeah. This idea is done. So look, this shit here. Put it into your life, but probably it is difficult. So if you want to work with me, or if you want to do something in the future, I'm going to have more groups doing this. So we'll have a bunch of guys who've done it, so we can go to the next level. It's another thing. Is like, there's other like where you can take a businessman, like they'll have like successful businessman group where everybody gets together on Saturday morning, and they're all in different businesses, but they're all kind of like sharing ideas to get to the next level. They've already sussed out a lot of things. The group is weeded out of losers. It's a bunch of winners.
And they're all on the same page.
They're all on the same page. Nobody's ripping off each other because they realize the group is more important than any particular idea, because they're going to go to maybe someone's got a great idea for a new something, but they realize that after that's done, there's another level to go to. Like I got friends who are billionaires. Literally, and so it's like there's other level to go to, and there's a level, like that's why people steal is they don't see those other levels. A lot of it, the reason why people steal, they don't realize that's sabotaging their future. So like the smart guys, they want to steal because there's money on the table. They're like they want to, of course, it's free money, but then they realize, wait a second, there's more money and more happiness than not stealing, just ignoring it. So when you walk into one of those meetings, there are people wallets laying all over the place and keys and computers and stuff, and everybody understands, and you understand that, but there's other ideas laying on the table. There's wives laying on the table. There's girlfriends. There's business models. There's partners, where you go and take a partner of somebody else, and then he finds out, there's like you realize like there's benefit in having a group of very smart guys who've done this and going up and up and up. And that's something I'd like to take with Unblackmailable, is have the upper crust of guys who've reached, let's say, $1 million a year in income or profit or whatever it is. And they've reached that level. And now there's like, these guys are getting together and saying, okay, what are we going to do? What could we do? What have you thought of? What have you done? What could you do? And then those guys are going to the next level, or helping each other, So that's why I can see in the future, because now I see a lot of guys succeeding. So first it's getting rid of the shit, right? Then it's like rethinking your life. Then it's like things change fast once you start doing this. Sometimes they change so fast you can't even see that it's already changed, But the key is when you're with other people, they'll help you. They'll say, it seems like you've been doing that a long time, like it seems to be getting harder for you, And you're like, damn, you're right. All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Hope it's been helpful.